Hi, this is Greg with my Conspirator movie review. The Conspirator is an interesting look at the trial of Mary Surratt, who is one of several people and only woman accused of and executed for being a part of the conspiracy to assassinate Abraham Lincoln. A few years ago, Robert Redford made a horrible film called Lions for Lambs, which was more of a political diatribe against the wars in the Middle East than a movie. In The Conspirator, Redford revisits many of the same topics, but this time in a deeper and more thought-provoking way. James McAvoy plays a former Union soldier and attorney who's asked, despite grave reservations, to defend Mary Surratt when almost no one else is willing to represent her. Surratt, played by Wright, ran the boarding house where John Wilkes Booth and other conspirators, including her son John Surratt, met. The plan was initially a plot to kidnap Lincoln, but developed into an effort to kill the President, Vice President, and Secretary of State. The question is how much Mary Surratt knew about what was going on in her house. She knew the guys were planning something, but was she fully versed on the plan? John Surratt fled after Lincoln's assassination and did not return to the U.S. until years later. His mother took the brunt of the anger directed against both. The film explores themes of truth, justice, and the American way. Can justice be upheld in times of national crisis and war? Should civilians be tried in civilian or military courts? The Supreme Court shortly thereafter ruled for the former. The Civil War is the perfect backdrop to explore these complex issues, and the probing seems less forced and political than in Lions for Lambs. The movie does an excellent job of showing how history can not only shed light on the past, but the present. This is not a film about Democrats or Republicans' different feelings about a war, or shoving one side down your throat. It's about how a society handles itself in the most difficult of times. Can justice be upheld? It's worth noting that these days we've become a bit more accustomed to the notion that even the worst criminals and terrorists will have legal representation by some attorney. And what a difference electricity makes. Although there's little doubt of the guilt of most of the conspirators, the film does a good job of making you care about Mary Surratt, even though she was accused of murdering one of America's most beloved presidents, and it's possible in reality she was more aware of the plot than the film suggests. While you feel that the mother suffered for the sins of the son, it's also worth pointing out that if she'd been a man, people would have probably been a lot less sympathetic to her and wouldn't have minded seeing her hang along with the rest of them. Which raises the question of whether the trial judges back then were more or less fair and even-handed than we would be today. Execute the men but show mercy to the women. There's advanced thinking for you. It's hard for us in modern-day America to insert ourselves back into a time when the nation had almost been destroyed by a devastating war, killing 600,000 Americans, and the great dislike or hatred of both sides for the other. John Surratt was later tried by a civilian court and set free, since the jury of Northerners and Southerners couldn't convict him, which makes you wonder whether a civilian court, because of Southern hatred of the North, would have similarly acquitted all of the other male conspirators who were clearly guilty. Mary Surratt's case aside, perhaps the military tribunal upheld justice more in the case of the other conspirators than a civilian court back then would have. And yet you come away more convinced than ever that citizens should be tried in a civilian court, not by the military.